Good morning, Bellows Falls, and welcome to the feed. Here we are. It's May 16th, 2018. We're going old school today.
It's just us today,
It's
folks.
just Marty and the old Marty and Mike show, just like we used to do
We
it
used
back
to
in
do
the
it,
old
yeah.
days, when it was black and white.
It's black and white TV.
That's right.
No, in the old days when we were, what's the opposite of HD?
SD.
SD, when we were
We were
SD.
standard
when we were
definition
standard
instead
definition.
of high definition.
Now
Now
we're
we are
high
high definition, so live with it.
Actually, it really came down to we just couldn't find anybody, so you got us.
Yep, you got us. We had plans. I mean, we did have well-laid plans that
Mm-hmm.
we thought would be perfect timing to have people who were doing fundraisers come in just before they do the fundraiser, but they didn't think that was.
Doesn't always work
so
that
they would
way.
come in after they do the fundraiser, and maybe
Well, schedules are
yeah,
schedules are
schedules,
such.
That's what happens. So what's happening this weekend in Bellows Falls?
I don't think there's a lot happening in
What's
Bellows
a
Falls this
3FBF?
weekend. I was just getting there. But that's, I don't always consider
Oh,
Friday
you
the
don't
weekend.
consider that a weekend?
I consider Saturday, Sunday stuff weekend.
Oh,
I
okay.
consider Friday like the end of the work week. But yeah, it is Friday 3FBF, which has grown to quite
Really?
quite an
Yeah,
event.
yeah,
It used
yeah.
to just be, I think it was just a few people that went, and it was just a few events. And now pretty much, I think like the bookstore stays open, the stores stay open later. There's a lot of times Flatiron will have an art exhibit opening
Yeah,
that
yeah.
night, or they'll have some type of event. This Friday, it's in conjunction with a barbecue fundraiser for the farmers market.
Right. And is that going to be at 33 Bridge Street, or do you know?
You know, I don't have
or
a
is it-
flyer on it. I don't have. I
Yeah.
only have seen it in a quick post on Facebook, but I haven't seen the details of it. But my guess would be it's at 33 Bridge Street.
Or at maybe at the Wakeling Center.
I
'cause,
don't know
well-
what my guess is probably 33
Yeah.
Bridge Street. Anyway,
We'll find
if
out
you
later.
went to the Facebook page for the BF Farmers Market, you would find it. I do know they're having Third Rail and Ron Boslin and some bands.
Oh, really? Good.
In addition to the barbecue, and it's to kick off and probably to help them get the farmers market going and also get awareness of
Yeah,
the
it's
farmers
getting to be
market.
that season.
It is getting to be that
Yeah.
season. I know. Finally.
Yeah, and
Finally.
in addition, the Chamber and the Development Department are doing a walking tour of downtown Bellows Falls for potential business owners, or for business owners who potentially might want to move. So they're showcasing the space that's available in Bellows Falls, and then they're going to do I think they're actually meeting at the Waypoint Center, doing a walking tour, and then coming back to the Waypoint Center, and then they're going to do send people out to various other like commercial spaces.
Commercial
Like hopefully
spaces.
they'll
That's
come
good.
to the.
And that's sponsored by the Downtown Development. Is that who's
Yeah.
sponsoring that, or is it Chamber? In
I think it's a
conjunction?
combination of the Development Department, BIFTA, and the Chamber of Commerce.
That's a good idea to
Yeah.
get everybody as a group to look at the space, and
Yeah,
then you hit because there's not a lot of, I don't believe there's a lot of ground level retail spaces. There's a couple.
Yeah,
But
it's
in
almost
the-
all full.
It's
now,
almost
yeah.
all full, and I think but there's a lot of second floor retail spaces, and now with the downtown being fairly vibrant, it is a good place to locate a small business because you've got places for lunch. You've got,
Yeah,
we
it really is
we have a
good.
very full downtown now,
Great.
which kind of leads us into.
Into-
You want to talk about meeting first, or
Yeah, let's go into the village
Village
meeting
meeting,
because
okay.
we had the village meeting on Monday. Marty and I were there.
we
ran-
were two of what was it, 63 people?
Yeah, something like that.
That's really pitiful. I'm just saying.
Pretty sad.
The village
Um,
has what, about 3,000 residents, and 65, we'll round it, because there were some people there that couldn't vote, so.
Yeah.
But voting, I believe, was about 63 that were able to vote. But,
Because I wasn't able to vote, so I couldn't. You
Right,
couldn't
'cause-
count me, and
because he lives
I
in
was.
Rockdale.
I know. I live in the town and
live
not
in
in
the
the
town,
village.
not the
Yeah.
village.
So we'll talk about that later. but we'll come back to that. But yeah, but it was a lively discussion. I mean, and everybody talked. You know, a lot of people talked.
A
And,
lot of people talk. Kudos to Paul Obohoski for his
Oh, yeah.
first
That's-
time moderating in the absence of Mike Hardy. He did justice to Mike.
Yeah, he
and he did a
did.
good job. Those are some big moderator shoes to fill, because
Yeah.
Mike's been doing it forever.
But I thought he did an incredibly good job as far as keeping people focused on what they should be
Mm-hmm.
doing. Because, you know, people they'll start talking and they go off on these tangents.
Tangents, yeah.
And he brought everybody back in and got the things done and got the votes done and really made it happen.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And kudos to the people for reining it back in when he asked him, because
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
people, it can get a little contentious, and I think it was a good meeting. There was some discussion. I think some really valid points were brought up, and one of the biggest points, and I don't know the gentleman's name that brought it up. I did hand him the mic, but people always come to these meetings and they're looking at these meetings, they want to cut, they want to slash, they want to do all this. The trustees, I think he said the trustees had 28 meetings
Yeah, they did.
in
And
the
then,
course of time to go over this budget. Their meetings are open to the public. Anybody can go. The agenda is posted a week ahead of time. In fact, I believe if you get on their email list, they'll send you the agenda so you can know what they're going to talk about. That's the time to go.
yeah, and really go,
and
and
to
if you really
get
want to get
involved
into
in the
detail,
process
and,
and
because
to-
people were looking at, well, this sewer line was here, and how come this money was spent there, and there is some of that you can talk about, but it's really not.
It's kind of after the fact.
place.
They've put a lot of work. They've done their due diligence in to bring what they feel is the best budget that they can bring you and still run the village.
Exactly. But I had a solution to the attendance.
Oh no! I'm gonna have to get. I do have the clacker. I have the clacker
Because as I
on
was driving out of
standby.
town, there were like 60 people at the meeting, right?
Yeah.
There were probably 100 people in line at Dairy Joy. We should have just had
Serve
the
ice cream.
meeting at Dairy Joy, and then people would be there, and then you'd have good attendance.
I thought for sure it wasn't gonna be Dairy Joy that you said there was 100 people out in front of. But
No, but we had the
election
Brattleboro
results.
Reformer says not much changes in Bellows Falls.
Following.
You can we'll see that. But then we made the front page of the Eagle Times today because of the election yesterday. A recount is requested in the Bellows Falls trustees election.
because the only seat that had more than one person voting for it, it was Jonathan
yeah,
Wright, Gary
Jonathan
Lickway,
Wright, Gary
Stefan
Lick-
Golick,
Gary
Gary Lickway.
Lickway, and Stephen Gold.
Again, Mike's not local, so he has a hard
Yeah,
time with
I have
local
a
names.
hard time with the name sometimes. I apologize, but I do. Deb Wright ran unopposed for village president, so she's going to be the new village president. But then the 3 people ran for the second seat, and or of 2 seats.
Right,
There were
you could vote for
seats.
2 of the 3.
Yeah, and so Jonathan Wright won with 122 votes. Gary came in second with 82 votes, and Stefan came in third with 80 votes, which is really close. So he requested a recount. But one of the things that occurs is since Deb now moves up to be the village president, her seat becomes vacant, right? So now they have, that's one of the.
I'm going to be really honest. I'm not sure how that works. I believe they have the ability. I don't believe that he automatically gets that.
Yeah, I
seat.
don't think
they
he
get
gets
to,
it,
but they can appoint. They appoint.
Yeah.
She has the right to appoint somebody. I believe.
Or,
Is that?
or they apply, and then I think the board.
The board appoints.
Yeah, the
okay,
board
so
appoints.
it's like an after election.
Yeah,
Like, so
Stefan
if
is
someone
still
else
in
was
is
interested,
definitely in the running.
then somebody could come from the town
Anywhere, yeah,
anywhere.
and it would be like a whole
apply.
new.
But
Yeah.
it doesn't go to general election. It becomes then the board.
Yeah,
The board then
decides, I think.
appoints somebody. So, and again, there's about like 60 people at the meeting, and then when I voted last night it's probably about 6 o'clock. I was number 142.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
I think they were hoping to break the 150 mark when I was there, and that's even more. All I can say is pitiful. It's sad. It's
that nobody's
sad.
interested. They should have had the polling at Dairy Joy.
They should have polling at Dairy Joy.
See, if
They
they
should
had
have
polling at Dairy
everything
Joy,
at Dairy
you get a
Joy.
cone. You get a cone, and you vote, and it would have been. Yeah, I bet they would have had 300 people turn
They
out.
probably would have had 300
Yeah.
people. I think that will be probably you should suggest that for
Maybe
next year.
In the last article where they have these non-binding things.
You're going to suggest they have the
Yeah,
next
I should-
meeting at
at
Dairy
Joy, and then we can
or
increase-
hand out ice cream. Just hand out ice cream in general.
That would be.
You vote and you get ice cream.
In general.
In general, that's ice cream makes people happy, so why
Yeah.
not?
Well, they
you
had
know?
cupcakes and stuff this year. I thought that was a
Yes,
really
the
nice
kids,
thing too.
Friends for Change came in and they had a lovely display of baked goods out front.
Yeah.
And again, which I think is a great idea for. I think moving forward, that's a great idea for any nonprofit to do that, because that meeting was fairly short, and I think people weren't kind of expecting it. But the town meeting that we
Yeah,
worked at,
they're
thing
long.
dragged on forever.
Yeah.
And it would have been nice to have, some little snack booth or something.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I know the theater has. Oftentimes they have the concession stand open.
Yeah, but
And it's true.
Rick was
Sometimes it
being
is some
really-
good popcorn eaten.
I think Rick was being really nice, and
He was.
He closed the concession
So that the kids could have-
kids could actually raise some money.
And that's a nice idea to open that up to to rotate through non-for-profits that want to handle some type of concession for the meetings. That again might encourage more people to go. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
But-
So anyway, so the vote was last night, the results are in, and there's gonna be a recount.
Which I'm
Or
thinking
I
isn't
guess
going
there's
to
gonna be a
take,
recount.
isn't going to take very long.
I wouldn't think it should,
It's not like there's thousands of votes to count.
Yeah.
So I think that should be probably taken like 15 minutes maybe.
Yeah,
And then
so
they'll-
maybe we'll hear, I guess you have to organize it, though.
Yeah, you have to, yeah, there's
do it.
there's
So
a
it
procedure.
might
I
be a
believe you
couple
have to have
days.
justice of the, you have to have the number of justice of the pieces, and justice of the pieces? Is
I
that,
think-
is that the plural of
I don't
justice
think,
of, justice?
I don't think it is, but we can make it that. Justice of the peace.
Anyone who likes grammar is probably just cringing right now.
I think it's justices of the peace.
Justice of, okay.
I think you do the, 'cause
Multiple
they're a
JPs.
just, yes.
They have to have
There you go,
multiple
multiple
JPs there. I'm just going to change it in general.
All right.
So the other big kind of controversy thing, and it kind of all ties in to the lack, the kind of, I guess it would be apathy about the meetings and apathy about the vote, is, I don't know if you've noticed, the little downtown banner,
Yeah, I have.
the hashtag I love Bells Falls downtown banner. That's created some chatter on Facebook.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know enough about exactly what it is, but I'm guessing it's positive, which is awesome.
Yeah, it is. I think it's
Meant to
very
create
positive.
a positive campaign. I'm guessing because it's a hashtag via Instagram mostly. I believe it's meant for people to share photos and positivity and really show their love for Bells Falls. And I think I was reading through the feed on this one post, because yes, I have too much time on my hands sometimes. And I was reading through the feed, and there was some negativity brought up towards Bells Falls. And I want to quote, and this is Cass Wright, and I want to quote because it kind of is sort of the theme of where we're going here today. You might not think we have a theme, but we
But
do.
we do have a
we
theme.
do have a theme. This is a Cass Wright quote. It's not from me. You get back from a hometown what you put into it.
That's true.
And I was sitting here, you were discussing with Alex that you wanted to
Yeah,
change
we
the
want to
backdrop
change some of
here.
our graphics.
And I was looking at these graphics, which is the big picture of Bells Falls, looking at Bells Falls kind of from a different perspective. And you really see what a beautiful town it is. And that a lot of people are really working hard to make it a good town. And to you naysayers out there, my question to you is, what are you doing? What are you doing that's positive? Are you just looking at your little corner?
Well,
Are you looking at the big
as
picture?
the naysayers, I think, were sort of always, they're looking at the good old days.
That was
Yeah,
a
it
little
was like
bit
the good
of it
old
too.
days. And it's like,
yeah.
well, if you really looked at the good old days, they probably weren't.
Not everybody probably everybody. So there were some people in the good old days
They
that
were
thought
the-
those good old days
they
weren't the
weren't
good
so
old
good
days
old.
because they were looking to back good old days.
Yeah. So I think we have to look at where we are right now, and like you said, that's a good the good way of looking at it. Is like, this is a pretty cool place. I mean, as far as a place to live, I can't imagine.
Well, some people may know this story because I've told it a couple times. I recently was on a plane headed to California, yay. And I was sitting next to a couple. And towards the end of the plane ride, they asked me where I was headed. I said, well, I'm headed to California. And they said, oh, are you from there? I said, no, I'm from Vermont. And they said, well, where? I said, oh, it's a little town in Southern Vermont. Because most people don't know Bells Falls. And,
Yeah.
and they were from Memphis, Tennessee, because I had asked them that question. So I thought, they're not going to know Bells Falls. And I said, oh, it's Bells Falls. And they said, really? That has our favorite antique store. We were just there. And I said, oh, Wyndham Antiques? And they said, no, the other antique place, the one on the corner. I said, oh, Billy Almond's place.
Yeah.
They said, yeah. They said, we could have taken so many things home if we had transportation. They were traveling through, they were doing a tour through Vermont, headed to Montreal. So we got chatting, and they said, we were talking about various things in town. And they said, as I was getting up to leave, as we were deplaning, they said, we just want to say to you that we went to a lot of different places in Vermont, like Woodstock, and they went through Burlington, and they went through a lot of bigger cities. They went to the ski areas, they toured around, and they said, we have to say that your downtown was one of our favorites. We loved the feel of your downtown. We loved the businesses that you have, just the feel. They said you had a real Vermont. For us, you had a real Vermont feel.
Yeah, yeah.
So they're total strangers. They're just looking at the good that's happening in Bells Falls.
And the now.
And the now.
Because
and
it
the
is the now, and it's interesting because we've had the BIFTA people on a couple times, and it's always amazing, and I've said this before too, is it's always amazing to me that there's only like 2 or 3 storefronts open downtown. But when you go to other places that are, I guess, more progressive and were ahead of us in doing other things, their towns are all dead now. They have strip malls and they have Dollar Generals and they have, you know, stuff like that. And it's just like, why? I mean, I understand at the time, you know, was this idea, but now they're living with that. And it's like,
And another thing that was brought up in that I Love Downtown, or I Love Bells Falls feed, was that the walkability of our town.
yeah,
The idea that, yes, if you live in the town of Bells Falls, for the most part, most of your needs, not all, there's some things that we're lacking, but most of your needs can be met walking-wise.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
the fact that we have a fairly good-sized grocery store is just amazing. And kudos to the Leaside family for doing what they've being here for years, even back in the good old days, and moving it forward with the younger generation. And having a local grocery store.
yeah, and adapting and keeping the spaces
And keeping-
vibrant.
and-
Because the deli is just as, you know, what used to be the small grocery stores, now the deli, and it's as busy as the grocery. That's the other
And there-
place we
and-
could hold the meeting would be at Little Lisa's, because
That's
there's
true.
always people
There's always
there.
some politics going on there too, or maybe we should hold it at the gas station up north
Oh,
of
the
town.
gas station,
There's
too.
always some politics going on there in
That's-
the morning if you stop for coffee. So there's lots of places we could hold the meeting. Maybe we rotate the meeting. We rotate the
We
meeting.
could have a club called Rotary, and we could rotate meetings around to different places in town.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna have to. You knew this was gonna have to come out at some point today.
Oh, sorry.
I told your wife I was prepared with it. She said, "Good idea, good idea."
That's a whole otry story.
That's a whole other story.
Marty
to
and I
talk
are
about.
members of Rotary. And
Yes.
when Rotary started, that's why it got the name Rotary, was it rotated
Yes.
the meetings. But anyway,
I learned that.
We
I
digress.
learned that in my orientation, so I knew exactly where you were going with that. But I think that also brings up a valid point about the town, because we just recently did an event. We recently did a penny sale to raise money for Rotary funds. The funds which the Rotary puts back into the community. So we went out to the community and we had to collect 300 prizes,
gifts or
300
prizes,
gifts
yeah.
to have. And every merchant that I went to donated 1 or 2 gifts.
Yeah.
Every merchant that you went to
Yes.
donated. We were able to collect 300 prizes that were then given away. People paid for tickets and they were given away. And that's in light of the fact there was an auction the week before, and there's probably an
Yeah.
auction next week, and the local small businesses constantly, and the big businesses constantly get hit for donations and fundraisers, and I have never been told no.
Yeah.
So I think
so
that
we need to
speaks
support
to
those
the heart,
businesses, yeah.
and we have to support those businesses. We have to look at the other thing that came up at town meeting, and I thought it was interesting that and I don't know if the timing was on purpose, but that MSN that got brought up,
Yeah,
the MSN survey, and that we're the poorest town in Bells Falls is the poorest town in Vermont. And I want, first of all, anything that comes out that I want to know what your statistics were, how you came up with that,
Well,
and why would you even put that
And
negativity
then
out there?
actually, with the internet today and with sites like that,
Are
they
some of them
track.
not true?
Yeah, well, they track your location, and so they'll say, you know, women from Bellows Falls are looking for you, Mike. And it's like,
Well, that
really?
happens all the time, doesn't it?
Why? How did they get my name on the internet?
You're right.
But it's the
You're
same
right.
thing. It's
You're
sort of
right.
like they put
Yeah.
up these things like, oh, this thing's happened in Bellows Falls,
And then
or
you
get
click
this
on it.
loan from in Bellows Falls, because they track your location, and it's like, so some of that stuff that the people bring up might not be exactly based in, but you know, that's one of the things that people need to think about is, you know, how come you do you think someone living in California sees something about Bellows Falls? Probably not.
No, they see
You know,
something
it's
about-
really has to do with
They're living in some little town in California, and they're finding out that there is the smallest town.
It has to do with where you're logging in from, and
Mm-hmm.
and the artificial intelligence is looking at where you are, and they're targeting you for ads, and so they're going to mention things like that. So I often question
The old grain of salt
Yes,
rule
I have a
applies.
big grain of salt approach, especially since I post on the internet, and most of the stuff I post is.
But I thought it was a nice juxtaposition that the very next day, or that
Oh,
very
yeah.
day, the I Love Bells Falls banner came up.
Yeah, yeah. And I
So-
back to that again. It's hashtag I love Bellows Falls. So if people don't know what a hashtag is, because that was part
That
of
was
the thread
some
too, is
some
hashtag
confusion.
and is
The old
what,
pound sign.
what people like me remembered as the pound sign, and we used to say pound sign Bellows Falls. I love Bellows Falls, but a hashtag is a thing that's used on various social media sites like Twitter and Instagram and Facebook to add like a label to a thing, so that if you're searching for something, you can find it quicker, and it groups things together around around whatever that is.
And it kind of it allows people from not around you, not your, especially on Instagram, if you, depending on what hashtags you
Yeah.
use, and when you enter a hashtag, it'll show you how many how many people follow that hashtag, and it's a way to promote. It's a way to promote.
And that's one of the things I read in the feed was someone said, well, we put this up here in order to promote the new art. There's a art open house that's coming up later on in the month, I think, or maybe next month, and they want to promote that. So they're asking people to take pictures, and then right when they post them, put hashtag I love Bellows Falls.
And then the more people that do that, the more it exponentially, your reach goes out, and then somebody from Memphis, Tennessee might see, and think, oh, that's a nice place to visit. And that's how we get the tourist industry. That's how we get people in here that randomly come. Because I should have asked them that question, like what made you go through Bellows Falls? What brought you here? But we were in the midst of deplaning. So I guess our general message today is just,
hey,
again, going back to you get
what you get out of it, what you put
hometown,
into
what you
it.
put into
If you want positive attitudes and positive outcomes, you have to have positive input.
And if you want change, then get on a board that's an agency of change.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the second election that people have run unopposed.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to do it. The school board almost couldn't have a school board because they didn't have enough people to be if someone hadn't stepped up to the plate, they didn't have enough people to even have a quorum to appoint people to the school board. That's kind of scary.
So get out there and be positive, and say nice things, and take good pictures, and put them up, and see stuff like this is really amazing.
And look at the town. Here's an interesting exercise. It was there's a college course that I took a long time ago, and you had to if you had a routine, if you had something that you did every day, like you drove to work and you took the same exact path every day to work, you kind of you just drive to work, you're on autopilot. So the task that week was to do something like that. That's just an example of it, but to go in a reverse pattern or take a different path.
So
either do it in reverse, do it a different, or take a different path, and then note all the things that you notice when you change that routine, when you change that path. So that would be my challenge to you out there, folks, is to take a walk through the town and really look from the perspective of either somebody that doesn't know the town, and just look around, and I think you'd be kind of surprised at the good things that you see happening.
I agree.
So, and if you want to follow through with us, you can send us feedback. You can send it to Alex.
Feedback on the feed.
To Alex. No, you can. And if anybody wants to come on the show, that's the other thing too. We're always looking for guests. If you have something to promote, if you have an opinion, if you want to challenge our opinions,
come on down
on the show.
But before we leave, we should probably
Speaking of
say
positive things.
yes. Roots on the River's coming up.
Coming right
big
up.
time. Big
time.
weekend coming up. And that's only, it's less than a month. It's like
Less than a
3
month
weeks
away,
away.
yeah. That's
So
coming up
you
big.
got to get on that. There's a new follow-up to keeping the importance of hope is now bringing hope home, which is going to be at the library on the 30th. Hope people will come to that. Coming up on the feed here in a couple of weeks, we're going to have Chris Bergman and Bob Haas back.
Nice.
We're going to do some history of Vermont, they want to do a thing on the anniversary of the influenza epidemic.
Okay.
Which may, on the surface, may sound boring, but
I don't think that the two of them can
Pardon
give us
me.
anything boring because I think they're
because those
just
guys are so much
fascinating.
fun.
Yeah,
I mean, they're just
yeah.
great. And then hopefully Floyd Lawrence of Intercept is coming back, and he's going to be doing a thing about the history of rock and roll in Bellows Falls.
Awesome.
So there you have it, folks. That's the feed.
So thanks for putting up with us today.
I'm
we
losing
haven't,
my
we haven't,
voice
We haven't
quickly.
given a shout out to our most loyal fans, Tom and Chris Miller, lately. So we're going to give a shout out to Tom and Chris
Tom and
Miller.
Chris, some this morning.
Yep. Tom's feeling better. He's on the mend. They're back to class. It's back to the rowdy class that it always was.
Good. And that's it for us.
That's it.
We'll
Have a
see you
good
next
week,
week,
everybody.
and have a good week.
That's it, folks, for the feed. Be sure to catch us every Wednesdays at 7:30 a.m. Also, find us on Facebook at Fact TV, or tell us what you think. thefeed8@gmail.com. And don't forget to watch the feed online at www.fact8.com.